Welcome to another G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout here. What we're going to do today is go through our standard format, and that's just ask a few questions, talk about a few topics. Hopefully a few guys will drop in, and we'll just talk about different things. So I'll start. David, have you got a question or a topic that you want to specifically cover today?
Yes, I've got a couple of questions really, because I guess my biggest thing at the moment is the marketing, is to keep pushing the marketing. So I've got a couple of ideas.
Yep.
Some may, you know, you might think are a bit pointless, but you know, they're just ideas. So
that's it. That's how it works.
And the second question really is, I need to change email systems from MailChimp, and I want to try is it Aweber?
Yeah.
So just a bit of feedback on that really. If that's for the systems I want, is that going to be a good one to use?
Okay, good. Yeah, I use Aweber, so yeah, I can give you my feedback on that, just to give you some idea.
Okay.
Well, let's start with the marketing. We'll sort of work through that, and then we'll see if we can sort of, then we'll get to the second question after that. So in terms of marketing, throw some of the ideas you're thinking about, or whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, my first idea was that maybe we could do like a guitar kind of survey to find out where potential students are. So what they do, this could be emailed out or maybe advertised on Facebook. So they fill in the form, and then maybe at the end of the form, they get a review of where they are, maybe on each skill, and then there's a chance for them to click on and have a one-to-one online with a teacher to go over the assessment, then which could maybe turn into an enrollment.
Yep, good. Yeah, I like it. It's a strategy that is often used with businesses and websites. A lot of guys do it with websites, where they'll give you kind of an assessment of your website. They'll go through it and they'll tell you whether it's got the right keywords and all this, and then give you a report, and then tell you, hey, if you want more information or you want to know how to get it up to the next level, and there's a certain response rate, you know, maybe 1 in 10 or 1 in 20. People say, yeah, I'd like to know more, because they've gone to the trouble of filling out the survey and the form in the first place. So they're kind of curious as to what, you know, they're really revealing their problems to you. And really the whole idea of any business, I don't care what it is, it solves problems. You know, if you go to a restaurant, it solves your problem of being hungry and not knowing what to cook, or, you know, that night. So in terms of teaching guitar, people have this problem of, oh, well, I want to be able to play this song, but I don't know how, or, you know, I want to be able to do certain things, or it might not even be the music itself. Sometimes it's just the idea, I want to play guitar because I feel like I have nothing in my life that's, you know, for me, I'm busy at work doing things for everyone else. I just want something, you know, to sort of fulfill my identity, or fulfill a dream, whatever it is. Everybody has different reasons, and it's not for us to, you know, decide what their reasons are. That's their thing. But they're looking for a solution, which in our case, it's how do I play guitar, or you know, how do I get from where I'm now to being here. So really, when you're doing a survey, it gives you a chance to tap into or get people to open up and tell you what their problem is, because people are lured into that. So yeah, I like it. I think it would work.
And then the idea at the end, once they've finished the survey, maybe at the bottom, you could say, if you'd like a consultation maybe with a G4 guitar teacher in your area, then you could have like maybe like a free half-an-hour Skype meeting to review your kind of survey.
Yep. You could even get them to do a video, if you like, you know, upload, because I was talking to a guy the other day who's setting up a business to do repairs for musical instruments, and I said that, you know, what I would do, my concept behind that would be to have just an upload, a website where people can upload a photo of their broken instrument and get a quote without having to ring you or talk to you or have anything to do with you until you get that quote. Because, you know, most websites and most businesses have this kind of almost like they don't want to give you any of their time until they see you open your wallet. Until they see the money, they don't want to spend time with you. And and that's why the businesses who aren't like that, who are actually saying, well, look, we want to show you what we do, we want to open up to you, give you something first, then those businesses often do quite well. So if you think about, some of the programs that we use, like for instance, Google Hangouts, this doesn't cost us anything, but I have a paid account with Google because they've got me in using some of their things, and so I pay them, some money to store photos, to do some kind of store my business documents and different things. And then you can go to other things like Evernote, which is free. Anyone can grab an Evernote and you can use it most of the time for free, but you'll get to a point, if you use it a lot, more like on a business level, not so much a personal level, but on a business level, where you'll eventually go, I'll just pay it. It's like $20 or something, or $30, whatever it is, for a year. And so you just pay the money and you get all the extras. And it's almost like it's sometimes not even that you need it, but it's just kind of a gratitude. You're just thankful for the fact that these guys have given you this and you're using it. So I think there's the law of reciprocity, they call it, and that's where you give something and people have this feeling that they want to give back to you. But as far as I'm concerned, the law of reciprocity should work in a sense that you shouldn't give to receive. You should give in the sense of, this is something I want to do, I like doing. In business, yes, it's a strategy, I understand that. But when I say you shouldn't give to receive, you're going to get some business back, and you certainly want it to work, and you do want to get some business, but don't give it with the idea of, I just gave up my time to you, or, blah, 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 blah. Why aren't you now giving me money? And that's what some people do. I had a very quick story, a recent situation where that happened to me, where a guy gave me a quote, put in some time on doing some software for me, but I actually very specifically said to him several times, can you just give me a rough quote? I just want a rough ballpark figure. That's all I need. And he kept saying, well, can I just ask you a few more questions? Sure. Okay, now can you give me the ballpark figure? He said, well, look, let me go and do a little bit of background work on it, and I'll come back to you. I said, I don't need a big job. I just need a quick quote. I just need roughly ballpark. That's all I need. And he just was very persistent about his wanting to do the research, came back to me and said he spent all this time on it. And I said, well, it's not what I'm looking for. So he was quite disappointed. And I was trying to say, but in the end, a good guy, he ended up coming back to me and saying, look, what did I do wrong? Why didn't I get your business? And I told him, I said, quite simply, you weren't listening to me. I wanted just to get a rough quote in the beginning. I understand. And you could have said to me between, $2,000 and $20,000. I didn't really care, as long as I had something to start with. And then I could say, okay, well, what do I get for 5, or what do I get for 10? So the idea is that in any process, you want to be giving to people, but without the expectation of receiving, because often you'll be disappointed. So if you give without that expectation, that's why if you do these surveys and you're willing to give up some time to process them, I think it'll work.
Yeah. And how do you think about advertising? Maybe just like a Facebook ad for people, or maybe like just sending them out in emails? And
there's a couple of stages to do it, and this is a strategy I picked up from a very successful online marketer, and it's kind of called the reverse strategy, and that is that what most people do in business is they make a product and they go and try and sell it, and the reverse is to find out what people want, advertise to them to see if they're willing to buy it, and then if they're willing to buy it, then make it. So it's the reverse situation. So if you think about just about everybody in business, they don't do that. Most people in business go, hey, I play guitar, or I like to cook food, or I like fashion, or I like hair, whatever it is that they do, they then go out and try and make a business. They then try and attract customers into doing whatever it is they're interested in. Whereas this guy, Frank Kearns, he's a very successful guy. His strategy was, well, I'm going to just do some research first and find out what people want. And then I'm going to do the marketing to test whether they're willing to pay for the things that they say they want. And then I'm going to go about making the products depending on what people want. So in the case of your survey, and here's a little trick, is that you want to make it so it's like they're going to be buying something. Because what you're looking for are buyers and customers So, because what can happen is you can start advertising on Facebook to give something away for free. And that's what a lot of guys do initially. They'll put up an ad and say, get a free this or a free that. And it attracts people to the ad. And if you've got like a free download or something like that, they go to the ad, they click on it, they go through and they get the freebie, and then you never hear from them again. So you get a lot of people who will actually download your free. And I tested this, just so you know, with the G4 Guitar Method, put it up there. It said it's free. And the number of clicks I got were just huge. Everyone wanted a free copy of the G4 Method, but they didn't want to pay for it.
I've found that with the leads that we get, you know, when they make a free download on the site, and I do the follow-up calls, and some people even deny that they've even downloaded the copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's okay for there to be something free on your website when they get there, because there's a slight twist here, in that if the ad is saying that they're going to get something free, then they will click on your ad, which you then have to pay for, and then they go to your website and then they get the free download. So in a sense, and sometimes it works, don't get me wrong, there are sometimes that giving away something free and even advertising free is a good strategy. There's definitely plenty of cases of where it works. But this strategy, the Frank Kern strategy, if you like, is to advertise, for instance, advertising the G4 Guitar Method at a price and saying it's this much money. If they then arrive on your website where you say you can now get a sample of this for free, not the whole thing, in other words, where we're selling the method at the moment, you could advertise it for sale at the price that it is, and people who click on it already are thinking, this is something I might want to buy. So they're not clicking on it to get the freebie. And that way you're not getting as many clicks, but what you are getting are clicks from people who are curious about what you're selling. So they're more likely to be a buyer.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's why when we do the G4 ads, like the tuition ads, that's why we say, it's about enrolling for lessons. It doesn't say a free lesson. We don't put on giving away a free lesson. Because that would attract a lot of people to get a free lesson. And like I said, that might work, and I'm not against that strategy. But I'm kind of just comparing here why, you can even test that. I wouldn't rule it out to test giving away a free lesson, but it will cost you in marketing. If you give away something for free, it's more likely to get abused if you give away something for free, like a free download, opposed to a free lesson, because at least with a free lesson, you get to do a sales pitch. You get them to come to you. So that's something to consider. Okay. All right. So just to elaborate on that a little bit more, if you did up a form, a survey, what kind of things are you going to, how are you thinking of presenting it?
I was thinking maybe doing it based on like skills. So you could have like the 7 skills. And you could have like, can you play a C major scale? Can you play an E minor chord? Can you play such an arpeggio? Can you identify these notes? Maybe just lines and spaces, and they click on, and then at the end they get an assessment of the level that they're at, maybe a percentage or something like that. Of they could be at this level, and if you want to increase your level, why not chat to a G4 guitar teacher and discuss whereabouts you're at, and then they can arrange like a Skype meeting, where I could possibly talk to them about how they could improve, and
Beautiful. Because you could actually do it like just straight off the G4 checklist, where you could say, you're a level 1, or you're a level 2, S2, S3, whatever, and initially you could program this eventually, like you could set it up as an automated program, but initially, and it's good to do these things manually initially, just to sort of tweak out the bugs and make sure people don't get annoyed and frustrated with it. And then get a programmer to sort of put it together. But the idea is that, someone could go out and you could have a questionnaire. They could go and fill in the questionnaire, do you know, you could put, basically you could take the 5 senior levels, just as an example. You could take the five senior levels, put all the chords on there, all the scales or the arpeggios, and then say tick the boxes of the ones that you can play comfortably at say 100 beats per minute or 120 beats per minute. Which of these can you play? And then they can go through and tick those ones, and then at the end they submit it, and leave their phone number, and then you can call them and say, okay, cool, looks like you're doing well, and and then do a follow-up assessment where they can actually come to you. So.
Yeah. So I guess that part is relatively the easy part. It's the advertising that's the tricky bit, is how to place the ad. Of that. Yeah.
You're initially going to want to advertise, because remember, you're trying to get buyers. That's what you're after, and it's always important to keep that in mind in your marketing strategies. So when you do it, that's why I go to that kind of Frank Kern thing of being fairly obvious about that you're in the business of selling, and that you're looking for students to enroll. So you might even have it so it looks, you don't have to say it necessarily outwardly, but and this is kind of his angle, is to actually put a twist, kind of an angle on it that makes it look like you're selling it. So in other words, it could be like G4 Guitar student assessment now available. To apply or to inquire, click here. And so it's like, to inquire, it gives you the feeling that, okay, I'm going to have to, this is a paid situation, whereas if you had free giveaway or free assessment, then you're going to get more clicks, but you're going to get a lot of clicks from people who are just going to, run up your budget, rather than people who are seriously want to be assessed and are happy to pay for it as well.
So would you put a charge on for the assessment, or would you run it as free?
You could try putting a charge on it just to start. You could even a small amount. You could put £5 on it, just as a way of testing it. You could start off with a larger amount even, and then just sort of tweak it and find out where that price is that people are willing to pay to get a free assessment. And if I think about it, if I was a parent, which I am, but if I was a parent in where you are coming to thinking about, oh, sorry, my child is having lessons somewhere else, and then I see this, have your child's progress assessed at a cost, then the cost gives me the feeling of, well, I'm paying already for another teacher to have my child taught. I'd be curious to know how they're going. I'd be curious to get an assessment from these guys just to see what it's all about. So it's not like they're enrolling for lessons. It's more about assessing where they're at and their current progress, and then lessons are available if they want them. But it just gives you a chance to assess. A strategy that was done some years ago that I think was very successful. I think it was done in Melbourne, in Australia, and what they did is they offered, which was a bit funny, but they offered. I think the slogan was something like, "Is your child musically gifted, or is your child a music, has a natural gift for music, or there's something along those lines, or find out if your child is musical, whatever." So, and it worked really well, and people wanted to know, because a lot of people just have this, we've talked about this before, but a lot of people have this idea that I'm either musical or I'm not, and my children are either musical or not. They were born with that kind of, musical gene, so to speak.
It happens all the time, yeah.
It happens all the time, and people want to know: does my child have that gift? So, well, not really. Nobody has that gift. We all have to work on it. So sort of advertising something along those lines, without it being contradictory to what we believe in, and that anyone can learn. It could be have your child assessed for to find out how musical they are, or is your child musical? Does your child have a musical bone in their body? Find out. So it's not that we're saying that it's genetic or anything like that. We're just saying find out if your child's musical, and then we can explain to them, well, actually anyone has the ability to learn a musical instrument. It really depends on the way that they go about it, when they learn, how they learn, etc., etc. So yeah,
I guess there's like different ones. So obviously there's the ones for the children, then there's the ones for existing players, and then there's one for maybe adults. So there could be 3 separate surveys done. Is that what you're kind of saying, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking, as I tend to do, is think about the children, and because of the opportunity with children to start at a young age and learn right from the basics, from scratch. It's just to me, that market, or working with younger children is something I enjoyed myself personally. So it depends, some people prefer different ages, and it's not that I don't enjoy working with teens and adults. I really did. I really had a lot of enjoyment working with those ages. It's just that at a young age, I just enjoyed seeing the development and working with parents and sort of going through each of the stages. And I think it was also, for me personally, is a lot of teachers don't like teaching that age group. Some of them even just totally wouldn't teach children under certain ages. There are quite a lot of teachers, I would say at least half of guitar teachers won't teach young children. And it's not like that with other instruments like piano and violin and so forth. They start them, they always start them at young ages. In fact, the majority of the students are young. In those kind of realms, they sort of they talk about, actually, by the time a child gets to a teen, they're gone. By that time, they've either got it and they're off learning with really good teachers, like getting expert tuition with virtuosos, or they've quit. And that's really how it's viewed, especially with an instrument like, say, violin. There's a lot of start early. There's even a kind of a running joke amongst violinists.
The school that me and Ben Messenger used to teach at. I don't know if you knew, we used to teach at the same school.
Yes, sir.
It was like a private music school, and they wouldn't enroll students until they was 8 years old.
Yeah.
So they're missing out on a big market, and then used to turn people away. I remember one girl, she wanted to enroll and she was 7, and they turned her away and said, come back when you're 8. And looking back at that now, it's it's
crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so many of the great guitar players started at a very young age. There's plenty of examples and look, it doesn't make any sense that the majority, I'm talking about the high majority of violinists who become concert level violinists started very young. They started 2, 3, 4, 5 years of age. So a violin, in my opinion, is harder than a guitar. There's no frets for a start, and you've got to bow the thing. It's a whole different ball game. So yeah, if you can play a violin, then you can play a guitar. And if you look at methods like Suzuki, they start them, believe it or not, from as young as 1 year. 1 year old, and they even actually get them listening to tapes of the music they're going to be playing when they're in the womb. That's how far back they take it, right? They go right to the point, because they know that the hearing comes online for a child in the womb. I think it's at about 6 months or 7 months the ear comes online. so they're already hearing that music at that point and responding to it, and they know because they've done tests and they can see that the child is responding. So Suzuki are like, all right, well, we're going to get them right from the beginning and really have it happening. And that's the reason why when you go across the world's orchestras, Suzuki, there are more Suzuki students in at that level than anything else. There's something like 40%. It's incredible the number of Suzuki violinists that end up at that level. So yeah, start young, and it's really more about the teacher. And I keep coming back to that point. It's the teachers are not trained. they're not experienced, because in guitar we have it's very lopsided towards the males. We know that you know, I can tell you now that 95%, probably more, of the people who apply and come to me are males. There's very few female guitar teachers out there. They're certainly not making up. You look at anything, you talk about politics, you know, guitar is where it's very male dominated. Guitar teaching especially. A lot of girls play guitar, but as far as teaching, it's mostly male. And the thing with the typical adult male, and you know, I can relate to this, is that we become teenage boys. We don't have any interest in little kids. We go through our teenage years, and we're interested in hanging out with teenagers, and we're often looking to older male role models. Our heroes are guys in their 20s and 30s who are, you know, rock stars or guitar heroes. So we don't really think about kids. It just doesn't figure on our radar. And then we start teaching, and then someone says, hey, I've got a 5-year-old, can you teach them guitar? I was like, what's a 5-year-old? I don't know what they do. They're crazy little monsters. Or they start teaching a few young kids, and the kids start mucking around, don't sit still, won't pay attention, and the teacher's going, I can't teach this kid. So they don't learn. Basically what they do is they look at the situation and they just think, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be babysitting. I want to be teaching someone who really wants to play guitar. I don't want to be trying to convince a 5-year-old that when they're 15 they'll be thankful for it. So, and I understand that, I get that, but if you learn to work with young kids, then, you know, you've got a huge market, huge opportunity. And I don't want to use the term market because, you know, I probably use that a bit too much. It's more when I talk about that age group and I use the term, I'm really talking about the fact the opportunity of working with young kids is something that I think is, until you've experienced it, it's seriously underestimated. The things that I saw those kids go through and the confidence building, watching them get better and better and playing at school and all those things, it's very rewarding. So to come back to the marketing, let's just sort of focus on the marketing, how you do it. I think, yeah, break it up. I think if you do, one is appeal to the parent with the child who wants to know how their child's doing, and a lot of parents do. They want to know how well their child's doing, especially with a lot of the schools. They run these programs where they teach guitar at school, and they don't know what's going on. All they do is their child comes home with a guitar, they ask them to play something, and then the child often won't play anything or can't play anything, and then they sort of say, well, I've been paying for this course for 6 months or 12 months and you can't do anything. And that's because the parent is not involved most of the time. So they don't realize that, but they are just waiting for someone like you, Dave, to come along and show them how it's done, because they're not getting and it's hard for the teacher in the school situation who doesn't have any contact with the parent to really do much about it. They just teach the kids and hope that they pick it up and hope they go home and practice. But we know what happens in those situations is the guitar ends up covered for the week.
As like an example, I remember that she just finished her 5-week intro now, and she'd been playing at school, and she'd been playing for about 2 or 3 years and just couldn't really play anything particularly well because obviously the skills hadn't been developed. So did the 5-week intro. After that, she made more progress in the 5 weeks than she'd done in the whole term. And I showed her Happy Birthday on the 5th week, and she just memorized the whole of it. It was phenomenal. It just kept going. And her nan rang me yesterday saying she's just been showing off to the family, just playing Happy Birthday constantly to the whole family. So I'm thinking, and that kind of reflects my teaching, thinking that that's what I want from students, and hearing that things must be going well, and so and that gives myself the kind of satisfaction as a teacher, because you're like, yeah, that's great, she's showing off at home, and
yeah, you've built a confidence because you've helped her to learn something in that period of time, and now yeah, her confidence is up, and she's kind of wanting to show off to everybody. And as everybody does, kids especially, that she'll go through downs and ups. That'll happen. But the fact is that she's off to a really great start, and early wins are really important, because then you can come back to those when she sort of goes into a bit of a downward dip, where she sort of feels like she's not progressing fast enough or something's not happening. You can go back and remind her of that she got off to a really good start. I do that with you guys. Some of you guys will do really well in the first 6 months of joining G4, and then you'll go into a bit of a dip where things aren't happening as quickly as you hoped, or you lose a few students and things aren't looking as good as they were. And then I remind you of look, 6 months. First 6 months was great. You were doing really well. Yes, it might be a bit seasonal. It might be you. It might just be a bit of bad luck, because there is, you won't find a business in the world, or a situation in most cases where there's development involved, where it's going to be straight up. It doesn't work that way. You're going like this, up and down and up and down. And that's how it works. Just go and look at the stock market, and that gives you a good idea of what most things are like. And the stock market is a great example, because the stock market, people think that it's actually got something to do with money. It's really everything about human emotion. And so things go up when people are buying, and in that sort of, as I think Warren Buffett said, it's fear and greed. And what you're watching is when it's going up, you're looking at greed. When it's going down, you're looking at fear. You can have both ways. But basically, that's what's moving the stock market, is fear and greed. People are buying lots because they think they're going to get rich from it, and then they're selling it because they're worried about it, or they're trying to make a profit. So that with students will happen, and but it's getting a student off to a great start, getting them on an upward run is very exciting. And sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll run for a while. So.
For me now, it's that I'm finding that I'm enrolling the students who I want to enroll, if that makes sense. With parent support, like the last 3 students I have enrolled have just, I don't know if it's because I'm going through the inquiry stage where I'm giving my expectations of what I want, and then they're kind of meeting those expectations because there's parent support, all the practice has been doing, the logs are filled in, and with adults and children. So it's, and I'm trying to pinpoint that now of where I've maybe changed somewhere, maybe in the inquiry stage, or is it in the 5-week intro, so those are the students that I want to attract,
Yeah, I would say it's definitely something you're doing, because you're noticing it. This couple of things to consider is that when we enroll new students, we sometimes think that we're getting, as we get better at what we do, that we're getting better quality students, and we might think somehow, through our marketing or the reputation of the school or the brand, whatever, is becoming. So you're attracting a certain kind of student, and there is an element of that. But what also happens, which is really important and probably more a factor, is that you are shifting the way people think. So when they come to you, they're still the same old students that were turning out to be not good students. But what you're doing now is you're conditioning them from the word go. So they're actually thinking differently. They're coming to the lesson with the understanding of what's expected, rather than before, where it was kind of, I think you probably know what I'm talking about, where they're kind of the eager salesperson. They're just eager to get the sale. I'll tell the person anything to get them enrolled. But
I know like the target is like the 100 students. But for me, I would sooner have lesser good quality students than have 100 students where practice logs are not filled in and it's just complete stress, and if that kind of makes sense. Obviously the target is 100 and I want to reach that, but with good quality students. So that might take me longer to get there, but it's
I'm absolutely with you. You need to not compromise on what you're looking for and what you want. And this is where you need both. Okay, you need this idea of you're going to get to 100 students. That's your goal, but you're not going to compromise on what you expect of those students. So that's where you've got the kind of the tension between the two. But when you have those two, what it does is it drives you to work with the people who do inquire to help them to come on board. So in other words, there are teachers out there. I know I actually haven't seen her for years, but I know this teacher years ago, and she said to me when I met her, she was teaching at one of my schools, and she said to me that her students at home are all get high distinctions. She was a piano teacher. They all get high distinctions on their exams. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. And I said, you must be a great teacher. And she said, yeah. And then I sort of talked to her a bit more. She wasn't egotistical, but she was a perfectionist, absolute perfectionist. And anyway, as I sort of spoke to her more, I said, how many students have you actually got? And you know, she was in her 30s, maybe mid-30s, and been teaching since she was early 20s, so about 15 years. And she said, I only have 4 students. Okay, so you've been teaching for 15 years and you've got 4 students. And she said, yeah, because I won't accept any student who's not prepared to practice for 3 hours a day, and they have to practice exactly what I tell them to practice. They don't do what I ask them to do, no more. They're gone. And so, whoa. So she's very strict teacher, and that's why her students were high distinctions. Now, she would not even let a student go near an exam unless she knew that they were going to get a high distinction. But the problem is she was filtering to such a degree that the students she was getting were the students who had the same kind of thinking as her. They were often kids who had very strict parents. Well, she only had 4 students, so they were parents who were willing to push their kids really hard. I think from memory, her students were just a couple of Russians and a couple of Chinese, and the very, very strict parents. And so these kids were being trained up to be, concert level pianist, and for the right person, she was the perfect teacher. But what she was not doing was she was not helping people who weren't going to get there on their own. In other words, they either had to rock up ready to do that kind of practice, or don't bother coming. Whereas some students are not prepared to do what's needed to be done when they rock up, and so they need us to convince them. They need us to kind of talk them into it a little bit, and bring them around. So we're not compromising. And I said to her, all my students practice, half an hour a day. Many practice an hour a day, a minimum half an hour a day. And I said, okay, they could. That's not going to make them the best guitarist in the world, but I don't need them to be the best guitarist in the world in the first couple of years. I just need them to progress and then to see the potential of increasing their practice. So there's some compromise, yes, on my side. But what I explained to her, and I think she learned a lot from the time that we were there, because she came to my school to work for me because she needed money. She just wasn't getting enough income from 4 students. So I sort of explained to her and went through it, and told her that what you need to do is take students who are prepared to practice the 3 hours a day, and start by working with them to get them to the point where they'll do more practice. Now, there won't be many students who will do the 3 hours a day, but you could probably have 20 or 30 students who would do the practice that you're looking for, but 80% of them you're going to have to bring around. You're going to have to use your persuasive skills to get them to do that practice and to want to do that practice. So it's about learning persuasion. That's really the secret to being successful. That's where you'll get your 100 students, and they'll be the kind of students you want them to be. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah, totally, yeah. That is kind of the perspective, yeah, or the outlook that I am having at the moment, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's good, really, because I guess in my teaching life, I've never really had this before. It's always, I've always let students kind of get away with, not practicing. So the level, when I look now and I see the level of students and where they're at, and it's amazing. Some of them are playing extremely well, And I guess the more you get results from your students, for me personally as a teacher, the more I'm motivated and the more I'm excited about it. And, you know, it's kind of a, you know, yeah.
It's a virtuous circle. Yeah,
Yeah.
virtuous circle. It just, yeah, they get better, you get better, they get more confident, you get more confident as a teacher, and around it goes. And that's, you know, I know that, and that's what happened to me. I just, as my students were getting, I was going, these guys are getting good. This is exciting, you know, and they're learning fast, you know, and they're learning in groups. So not only are these students doing better than any students I've ever had in the past, I'm earning more money doing it as well. You know, so yeah.
We did a band rehearsal because we're having a showcase on Saturday, and I always like to bring new students in just to. A few students did stand by me, just strumming along, you know, just getting used to a band who wanted to do that. But some of the students who've been with me a bit longer got up and played. They was doing solos and things. And some of the new students said, "Oh, are they teachers?" No, they're students.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Well, they're your future teachers, right?
Yeah.
The perfect teacher is someone who's actually been through the G4 guitar method.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
They know it from beginning to end, and they're you know, there is no better endorsement. When someone rings up, you know, in a year or 2 or 3, whenever you hire your first G4 guitar student teacher, and you say to the parent who's a teacher, say, well, this guy was a student, he went through G4, and now he's amazing, you know. So yeah, it really works. That's great, David. It sounds like you're teaching. I know you want to sort of get more in the marketing happening, but it sounds like your teaching is just on fire, which is great. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, yeah. It's I'm kind of slowly now feeling that the groups are coming together, and it's, yeah, and I'm getting more and more confident with that now. I can roll into the group, you know, command each skill, and I mean, it's still a long way to go where I envision where I want to be with the groups, but I'm slowly climbing that ladder. You know, each month gets progressively better, and yeah, so it's good.
That's great. That's really, really good. Okay, so we'll just talk about the last part of this, the Aweber. So can you just say again what you wanted to ask about Aweber?
So MailChimp, I'm finding it to be a bit hit and miss. So the thing I like about MailChimp is that you can see if they've clicked on the emails. So if you send a confirmation out or any emails, then it'll give you a percentage of how many people have clicked on this email, your newsletter, then you can start tweaking it to get better percentages. But sometimes it's even with when I send out the confirmation emails, people are not getting it. It's going into the spam, or it's not reaching there. So I'm wanting an email system that's more guaranteed, I guess, for the email to get there.
Yeah.
And for also for, say, if I get an inquiry, not an inquiry, a lead, and that person doesn't enroll, what I found myself when I've been clicking on business sites and I put my email address in, that I usually get about, if I don't sign up to that company, I usually get about 5 I know they're automated emails that come through giving information. So I was thinking if I could maybe set something up like that on Aweber. So say someone inquires through email and they don't sign up straight away, that then I can respond with some automated emails. I don't know.
Yeah. We've got the form. I mean, you might want to do slightly different emails, of course, that are more about having lessons with you in your school. You might send some pictures of you but we've got that set up already on a form with, a dozen standard emails that go through. So anyone who fills the form in for the free copy of the G4 method on your site, and if it's hooked up to, I'm not sure, are you hooked up to that? Because there was something that not everyone took up. Did you?
Yes.
Do you remember? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So so that means that they will get about a dozen emails, and of course you can also email them.
Sometimes they don't come through the form. Sometimes they will email me direct. directly,
Okay.
and those are the ones that are slipping the net, so to speak. Of not going through the system. So I was thinking, with those people, do I just put them into the form, or is it something I could do myself with Aweber, where I could send out emails?
You can, but they need, the way that we've got our set up is they need to confirm. So they can't, if you put in the email, they will then need to confirm that they are subscribing, which is, I think, something that's going to become almost automatic soon. I think they're talking about changing it so everyone has to, because you can have it either or. In other words, you don't have to necessarily have people confirm. You can have them so that they just go automatically onto the list. But I think they're looking at changing that and building into kind of the anti-spam laws. So, people can't go and fill in forms using other people's email addresses. It really depends on the numbers, but, I put a lot of value on a student inquiry about guitar lessons. So if someone inquires with you, it's different when they're sort of just getting a free download from the website, just wanting a copy of the G4 method. They're not necessarily serious. But someone who goes to the trouble of emailing you and asking you about your lessons, I would treat as a serious inquiry. So I wouldn't be sending them any kind of automated lists. I would be following up with them directly and tracking what I'm saying to them each time, and really exhausting the inquiry to make sure that you've done everything that you could do to satisfy. Because if someone sends an email saying, "Hi, I'm interested in your lessons, want to find out more about, do you teach kids, or do you do this, or do you do that?" That's someone who's ready to take up learning guitar. So they don't want to, putting them on an automated email list is really not the way to go in that situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could send you through some of the emails that I get, and I've been using just a standard reply that's on the G4 website.
Yep.
And then if they don't reply to that, then I send the second one, the one if they're still interested in learning. And then sometimes I don't get responses from that. So yeah, then I was thinking, at that point, what do I do then?
Okay, it really, see, one of the things about, even though they're standard emails that we put there, they're really the very basic fallback. They're not meant as send this to every single person who sends an email, no matter what, because your response really needs to be personalized. And so when someone emails, you want to really so I do things like this. For instance, when I get an inquiry, and I do it even because I get people who email me through sort of different avenues asking about guitar lessons, and so they might, if they say something in their email like, just inquiring about guitar lessons for my 7-year-old daughter. She has a guitar now, but has never had lessons before. Could you let me know times, prices, etc. Right? That could be a standard email. So the first thing I do is reply by saying, "Thank you, Mary, for your inquiry regarding your 7-year-old daughter." So I've acknowledged what she said in her email. So if I just send an email back going, "Thank you for your inquiry, Mary. Our lessons are on Monday to Saturday. The price is this, blah, 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 blah," or even just to talk more about this, could you please send me your details? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, sorry, we dropped out. Can you hear me now, Dave?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so when someone has an email, they send an email to you, try and use what they're saying and read the email. A good rule of thumb is read the email 3 times. Read it, and then take a break, read it again, take another break, and then read it a 3rd time. never respond to it straight away, those inquiries, because what you will do, and I've made this mistake, I still make the mistake every now and again, where you read the email once and then you respond to it, you send it off, and then you realize you forgot the first thing they asked and you were just entering the second part of their email and hadn't acknowledged the first part, and then you get an email back from them going, I think you missed the point, or you missed my question, or something like that. So oh God, So what you want to do is read the email, because these inquiries are important, and these are people who are seriously interested about learning guitar. So you want to treat them. You know the time, the effort, and the investment that goes into finding inquiries and getting new students. So whenever you get an inquiry, that they're the ones who really want to look after. So yeah, personalize it. That's really the key, and acknowledge everything that they say in the email.
At what point would then you start to push for phone numbers?
So, for instance, if we go, that example of, hi, it's Mary here. I've got a 7-year-old daughter, wants to learn guitar. Never learned guitar before, but we own a guitar. So in that time, she's given me her name. She's given me her daughter's age. She's given me the fact that never played guitar, so I was a beginner, and told me they have a guitar. All right, so I've got 4 pieces of information. I'm going to acknowledge those pieces of information in the email response by saying, thank you, Mary, for your inquiry regarding your 7-year-old daughter. It's a great age to start. Put a bit something positive there. Good to hear that you've already got a guitar, and what was the other thing? And I'm assuming your daughter's a beginner. Therefore, we have a course called our junior course, which is ideal for a 7-year-old beginner. And what we have is we start with a 5-week introduction. But what might be a better thing is if I can talk to you on the phone, and then I can go through some of the details with you of how it works and what our expectations are. And I would often put that word in, what our expectations are. And it would depend, sometimes the tone, if they're looking, you can sort of get the tone that they're just up for some fun lessons. I don't want to sound like I'm too serious at the beginning. I will still bring them round. That's just persuasion. Okay, persuasion is about taking them from where they are to where you want them to be. It's not about yanking them over here. And that's where I gave the example of the teacher before, who was very strict. 3 hours a day, oh, don't bother coming. That was her policy. Whereas I would be going, look, come on down. Let's do the introduction. See how you go, and I'll talk more about it. You will need to practice every day. But let's just start off with 10 minutes a day, and then we'll build from there. We want to try and get it up to 30 minutes a day, but we're going to start small, just get into the routine. I'll give you some things to do, and so it comes across as I'm giving the bit of information that I want, but I'm not being too pushy. But just to come back to the email, I've gone down through that, and then at the end there, I've said very clearly, let's talk on the phone. If you would like to send me your phone number, I can call you at a convenient time. So that I'm not giving away too much. I'm acknowledging. So the main points there: acknowledge what they want, who they are, what they put in the email, the information they put in the email. That makes it feel personal and makes them feel that you're listening to who they are and what they're about. You haven't just responded in a standard format, and that people know it. People can look. We are highly sensitive creatures, human beings. We can see our pattern recognition is more highly tuned than any other creature on this planet, and it's our ability, it's our brain, and its ability to recognize patterns that makes it. That's why, if you go into the science of this pattern recognition, I don't know if you know much about it, but pattern recognition, that's why we can look at a cloud and we can see faces in a cloud. Right? We can make faces in a cloud. We can make shapes, and we can take a few shapes. We can make out things that aren't actually there, and that's our ability to create patterns in our brain. And the same as within the text of an email, the pattern of that email, they'll be able to tell the tone, or whether or not this is just an email that you just copied and pasted, or whether you answered this personally. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, answer personally. That's the key.
That's what I've not been doing, to be honest. But I
Okay.
have been having success getting phone numbers just by the standard on the
Yeah.
on the other things. So yeah, but,
It works, and it's like the script itself, the standard email. Yeah, it works, but it won't work on everyone, and it won't work on certain emails. You know, when certain people email you, I could probably look at certain emails, and I could say if you send the standard email to this particular person, there's about an 80% chance you won't get a reply. Or, you know, even if you do get a reply, they'll probably feel that you're not really connecting to what they're interested in. So,
as an example, David, I delivered some flyers yesterday, and I got an email from a mum regarding lessons for the 6-year-old daughter. So I replied with the standard email, and she emailed back with the phone number to ring her today. So I rang her before the meeting, and so she answered, and I said, "Hello, blah blah blah. This is David from G4 Guitar School." Boom, and she put the phone down. so, and I'm unsure why, but then I rang back just in case it was a loss of connection, living in hope. And then I got her answer machine, so I just left a message saying, "Sorry, I think we just lost connection somewhere. This is David from G4 Guitar. You inquired lessons for your 6-year-old daughter. I may have something of interest for you if you want to give me a quick call back on blah blah blah." But I just knew she's put the phone down.
Yeah, and look, there's so many things can be going on, and you know what? We're nearly always wrong. Whatever we think is going on at home, we're nearly always wrong. She might be in the middle of a fight with her husband. She might be, just had some bad news from somewhere. She might have a kid, vomiting on the floor or something. You just don't know. And so we've just got to really not even assume, just go, well, just leave the message that you called, and that you'll try again tomorrow. And if you say that, I'll try and give you a call back tomorrow. I'd usually say, I will be teaching this afternoon to this evening, so I'm sorry I won't get a chance to call you back today, but I will try and give you a call around this time tomorrow. But if you want to call me, that's fine as well. So that way they know that I'm going to call at that time. And if I call again at that time and they don't respond or pick up, or they're not there and I don't get any reply, I know that they've gone cold. I don't chase them anymore. I might give them another email just saying, "Hey, I've called you a couple of times. If you're still interested, just feel free to call me," because I don't want to come across as a crazy stalker chaser. That's not what I'm doing. They inquired, I'm following up on the inquiry. I'm doing what's reasonable, and then beyond that, I'm out of there. So I'm not gonna be chasing you. And you really need to take that attitude, because if you do chase, they will run. When you chase things, they tend to run away from you. So it's better not to chase. It's better to just do. They've approached you for whatever reason, and now they're switched off for whatever reason.
Just one final question, David. If I change my email system to Aweber with all my email addresses that I have on MailChimp, would they need to confirm the subscription to the change of Aweber?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you can import them all across, but an email would be sent out to all of them for them to confirm their subscription. But look, in Aweber, you can bring them in. You can. Sorry, take back what I said then. You can bring them all in without them having a confirmation, and they'd be on your email list. But if you start emailing them, you could come up on a spam radar because it's coming from a different place, and that sometimes will trigger spam alert for people. So a lot of those emails would end up in spam, and that's why it's better to send out a confirmation email, because in most cases, well, not in most cases, but in a lot of cases, they let the confirmation email go through, whereas they won't let another type of email go through.
Okay. But then they're more solid people, aren't they, if they've clicked on the confirmation?
That's exactly it. And that's how I would do it. I would send them, and you don't have to do it just once, you can do it a couple of times, but I would send them out emails going, we will no longer be, if you want to resubscribe to our mailing list, this is the place to go. But look, how many emails have you got?
I would say close to 300.
Okay, right. I would start working through categorizing them, like, from, what where they're at, from, a cold to a warm to a very warm to a hot kind of lead. So you can go through them, and if you've got phone numbers, ring each one. If you've got emails, email each one, and personally do go through each one, because it's really worth it. You think about going out and spending 4 hours, 5 hours doing flyers to get one inquiry. You've got 300 past inquiries sitting there. What you can, in 4 hours, you can probably get through 100 of them.
Sorry, in the 300 emails I've got, some are current students, some are inquiries, and some are past students.
Okay, so start with the inquiries, because and sort through them. Take the current students out of it; they shouldn't be in there until they're passed.
I do have them categorized in Mailchimp.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. That's what I would be doing. I'd be dealing with them one at a time based on which ones I think are most likely to respond, and go from there. And you get to know. You'll remember. You'll see an email, and you'll remember having a few conversations with that person. And then when you email them back, they come back to you and go, "Oh, sorry, I forgot about it, or we got busy, or got sick, or something." So yeah, you'll pick up a couple of students out of those for sure.
I did some backcalling before the meeting today of people who inquired and they've been on holiday, so I booked one in before the meeting, which was good.
Excellent. Yeah.
So there's a few more to call.
Well, I think, look, next week, because we're out of time now, but next week, let's talk more marketing. I think that's really the main thing for you now, is let's talk marketing. Your teaching's on fire. That's going great, but always feel free to share some more stories, because it sounds like it's all going really well. And let's focus on really digging into different marketing strategies.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
thanks, David.
Thank you very much, David. And, see you soon.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.